Okay, welcome back. I am Loibner-Waitkus, and this is Comp 1, and I am going to do a video on how to set up your paper in MLA style. Now, your papers aren't due for a while, and another thing on these videos, I will, if you hear kids, like I said, I film outside, and if you hear kids or my dog's barking, I'm just going to work my way through it, because when I first started doing this, I was trying to film a video for another class, and it took 3 days to do, because the dogs kept barking and people kept interrupting and somebody'd start mowing and all the rest of that stuff. So I decided then, no more. I'm just going to power through. And if you listen closely, you may hear me beat down my geriatric neighbor who after 3 years has decided he's got a problem with us for no apparent reason. So anyway, we have pugs, but they don't bark or very much. And anyway, I don't know. They've got some issue with me, and I can't do anything because I've watched enough. What's that show? Channels. The one where, the Wives with Knives show. Anyway, the Fear of Thy Neighbor show, it always ends up with a sick neighbor, and judging from his death cough, he's got days left with the cancer. Always starts with a sick neighbor killing a dog and then somebody else getting killed. So I don't feel like my dog's getting killed or me getting arrested for murder. So anyway. So if you hear me yelling or him yelling, that's what that is. I've never had a problem, I swear. All right, what we're going to look at first is the assignment. I'm going to go through how to submit in a different video, but you'll notice it has to run through Safe Assign, and I have to be able to open it. So those two things have to happen for anything that you turn in. Now, at the end, it lists Safe Assign. Basically, is what tells me if you've plagiarized. And it'll catch you. Man, it's good. But it's got this big long list of different kinds of files. I basically narrow it down to 3 that are easiest for me: Word document, PDF, or rich text format. If you have to, PDFs and Word documents, Word's the best because it pops right up. And that being said, if someone else on YouTube is watching this because they want to learn how to do it in MLA style, probably not the best video to watch because I do not use Microsoft Word. I said I want it that way with you because it shows up in the window. But I use InDesign, which is a graphic design program, or I use Pages, which is the Mac version of Word, which I think just makes a whole lot more sense. But I do have Word. We're going to deal with it. But if you're watching this thinking you're going to learn from somebody who's a master at Word, I'm sure I will make a ton of errors. So let's open up Word. Okay, now MLA is the Modern Language Association. While Word opens up, let's go look at that. And whoops, wrong document. Told you I'm not stopping. If you'll go to Amazon, and you don't have to buy this, but we're now under MLA 8, and I will post a link to, I have some quick tips for MLA 8, and your textbook has on how to do it, but it's this new version, which is totally different than the other ones, but we still set up papers the same way. Now, if you need to do a works cited page, which you will for your final essay in this class, I'll do a separate video for that. That's a lot more complicated than what we're going to do today. I wanted this to go a little more quickly. Okay, so what I'm going to do is open a new document in Word, and we'll zoom in a second when I get down to the nitty gritty of things. Now, when I'm showing you this stuff, it's very specific, okay? Doesn't mean you have any leeway. I can flip-flop this, or I can do this at a different size. The first thing that we're going to do is, let's do see now, here I am searching aimlessly for stuff. Where is my view? Is it in or insert? Let's just do insert page number and see what happens. Okay, it's going to ask me where. Okay, I want it up in the top page on the right. Now, you don't just want the page number. Once I do that, watch, it's going to let me up. We call this the heading. I'm sorry, the header. But once I'm up there in the header, okay, I can click on it. What I'm actually going to do, you want your last name, space, and the page number. But if you just type your last name up there, you can do insert page number that way too. But anyway, you want it on the same line and everything. Nice. Now I used to would do this under my name, but since my name's used on this, it would confuse people. So I made up this fake student name, Samantha Smith. And so we're going to do her paper. Okay, so I'm going to type Smith there in 1, and you'll notice in a second when we go to any other subsequent page, because I did insert page number, that will change. The other thing that I'm going to do here, and again, I use the shortcut keys a lot, but I'll try to remember instead of Command A to do select all here. And I'm going to go to layout, nope, design, nope, insert, where the heck? Home, probably, yep. Okay, we want this in a serif. Now, a serif, a lot of teachers will say, must be in Times New Roman. That's a serif, and that's fine. You want your heading, your header, I'm going to do that every time, in the same font and the same size, 12 point, as the rest of your essays. Now, again, I do graphic design. This isn't even half of the fonts that I have on my computer. A lot of them are in Suitcase, which is a font storage system. Most instructors will tell you to use Times New Roman, and that's fine, okay? That's what I'm going to show you here, Times New Roman. Okay, now, I'm going to zoom in for a second. View. I really need to learn how to use this a little better. View. Then we'll go to 100%. Oh, no, that's actually farther away. We'll go to 200. Let's do 150. All right, as we move in, see the little feet on this font? Okay, those are what make it a serif, okay? So that's like any, Arial is not a serif. That's what we call a sans serif. See how these don't have the little feet on them? American Typewriter, of course, does, because it looks like a typewriter. Anyway, so any serif with the little feet will do. I'm going to actually use the one I normally use, which is Palatino. Don't use any of these, what we call novelty or display fonts. Well, that's actually a script, but, fonts that look weird, or I just saw Papyrus a second ago, which is a terrible font. There we go. Nothing like that, okay? We want it to look professional, so I'm going to use Palatino, which is very similar, you see, to Times. It's a serif. And I'm going to close out of there. And so now what you'll notice when I get to the next page is it will say Smith 2. Okay. Now I'm on the top line of the actual essay itself. The MLA, Modern Language Association, says that leave title page, whether or not to do a title page, up to your instructor. No, I don't want them. They're in the way. I don't have my students on campus do them. I don't have my online students do them. I don't think that they're necessary. Okay. In MLA style, everything is double-spaced. Okay. So I'm going to go and double-space everything. Nothing is ever single-spaced, and we never do anything more than drop down a line, okay? You would never hit enter twice, basically, is what I'm saying with that. Now, what you also want to do is, under line spacing options, you don't want to space that weird space that it does after paragraphs, okay? Keep that the same. And everything else, as far as your defaults go, are probably going to be okay. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to type is your name. Now notice this switched back to Calibri, which is the default font on here. I'm going to change it to Palatino. Okay, and 12 point, notice, 12 point. Samantha Smith, okay, that's her name. Then you're going to put your instructor's name, professor, whatever. We'll go with professor, even though Pulaski Tech, we don't have formal titles. Last name, first name, depending on what the instructor wants. I'm just going to do Professor Loibner-Waitkus here. I'm going to turn off the spell check in a second because I can't stand that underlined stuff. But back to the name. My last name is complicated, and I tell students it does not offend me when people misspell my name, right? I mean, Loibner-Waitkus. How often do you think that happens in my life? I don't think I've ever gotten mail that wasn't to, Loibner-Waitkus instead of Waitkus. But the point is, it's not a good start on your essay. I'm not going to take points off because you misspell my name, but if you didn't bother to look how to spell my name, it kind of lets me know where this essay is going, which is not in a good direction. Okay, the third line is the class, and you put the formal title of the class, which in here it's composition 1. Notice the Roman numeral 1, not the Arabic numeral. And then finally, the date is the last thing. This is called the heading, by the way, and it's only on the first page, not the header, okay? Heading here. And so the third thing is going to be the date. Now, it's the due date, and it's always the day of the month. And one good thing about MLA style is you don't have to worry about commas with dates, okay? You do the day of the month. This is due, let's say, the June 24th, 2017, okay? Now, the next line, you do want a title. I said no title page, but you do want to do a title. Now, We're not going to really go too in depth about titles of essays. So, I mean, we're going to hit on that a little bit, but give it a title. It could be a narrative essay one, but that's kind of boring. But anyway, the point is your title goes here. Now notice, no, it's centered. That's it. Notice it's just down one line from the date here. I only hit enter once. I didn't hit enter twice. I'm not italicizing it. I'm not bolding it. I'm not putting it in quotation marks. I'm not doing anything other than following the rules of capitalization that we do with the title, right? The first and last word, all other words with the exception of articles, short prepositions, and or and to, right? So I'm going to go down to my next line, and this is where the essay starts. Now we indent, okay, which is a tab. If your teachers in typing in high school or English teachers said 5 spaces, 10 spaces, ignore that, because that really depends on the font. We want it 1/2 inch, which is 1 tab generally, unless you've screwed with your defaults, okay? And so I'm going to type my first sentence. Now after, and this is a graphic design pet peeve, I don't care if your teachers told you 2 spaces after the period. That has not been the case since word processing programs came out. They know when the end of the sentence, or when a period comes at the end of the sentence, to make a little more visual space. And so all that really does is just create a nightmare for designers, okay? So notice this is just that first paragraph. Now, unlearn that rule that essays have to be 5 paragraphs, okay? They need to be at least 5 paragraphs, but some things, I remember a teacher telling me in school, you've got 6 paragraphs here, it has to be narrowed down to 5, but I'm making 4 points. Well, you got to get rid of one of them. And I thought that was the most ridiculous thing in the planet. Notice, when you read essays for classes, they're not always 5 paragraphs. I don't know why we think the world has to work like that. But once we're done, so notice there, I finished my first paragraph, my introduction. I'm going to hit enter, tab in. Now notice, no weird spacing there, just tabbing in. And I'm going to type my second paragraph. Okay. Paragraph 2, go down to 3. And like I said, I'm not going to make this 5. I'm going to do 6 just because I can. So that's paragraph 3, enter, tab, whoops, 4, tab, okay, so notice I'm still tabbing, enter, tab. Good Lord, see, there are my dogs. Okay, so when I'm done with the paper, I'm done with the paper, okay? And so here, I don't 840 words, see, so that's, about the length of your essay. Hopefully you're using a little longer words than most of these, but that's what the essay would look like. Now, one quick last tip before or a couple more tips actually, before I stop this, is, no, I already forgot what the first one was going to be. Oh, if you're going to do a works cited page, don't do this annoying enter until you go down to the next page. Insert a page break, and that way, like that, and then I would do my works cited page here. Now you don't need that yet. We'll learn that later. But what that does is that saves you from having to weird spacing issues, or when you print it on a different printer, you print it on a computer that doesn't have the font that you don't use, then you don't have to worry about everything getting bumped down, or when you go back through and edit, or whatever the case may be there. Okay. The other thing, and I love to tell this story, when I was at the University of Texas, my sophomore year as an undergraduate, I had a friend who was a senior. This is in the spring, and he was an English major and had his final big paper due. And this is, when instructors had no sympathy for you. And he spent all night at our house, because we had my cousin, who was my roommate, was a computer programmer. And he had, isn't this a fun story while you're looking at a cursor? He had he was a computer programmer, and this is back before God James and everybody had a computer. Most people, a lot of students were still typing things. And so people would generally come over to our townhouse, condo, whatever you want to call it, to type things. And so he'd stayed up all night, I think for 2 nights at our house, working on this essay. And when he finishes it, it has to be at his 8 o'clock class to turn it in. And again, there were no late exceptions. He gets up, he's like, where's the paper? And gets up to, I show him, and he gets up to get it, and he unplugs the computer. And of course, this is back before autosave and the rest of this other stuff. And so the entire paper in 2 days were lost. And he actually literally had to return for one more semester to finish that class because he failed it because of the paper. So one of the things that I tell students is as soon as you do that first, start typing in your name and stuff, save. And again, I don't care here or what you save it. Let's see, it's wanting to save on a OneDrive, and I don't want it there. Save as on my Mac. Okay, I'm just going to save this on the desktop. But anyway, give it a name. It could be, I do underscores, which is weird, I know, but I'm old. Okay, just whatever you want to name it, and save it immediately. And then you'll notice my students who take graphic design for me, or whenever I'm around people, they notice that I'll obsessively hit Command S, which you'll notice file is Command S. And what is it? Control on a, not control, whatever the key is on a PC. But if you get in the habit, my fingers will constantly just do that. And I'll have people say, you realize you just saved that 3 times and you hadn't typed anything. Yeah, I do it sort of as an OCD thing, but the reason that I do that is because of the paper issue. I've never lost a paper. And so the more you save, the better you are. Now, I want to show you a quick trick.
It's 12 o'clock.
There's my thing telling me it's 12 o'clock. If you have pages, which again, it won't accept, or it can't run them through, which is what I use, or WordPerfect or something like that. Now, you can always save as. I'm going to go back. Let me open up this paper today. Why is my computer being slow? I'm going to select all of this and copy it and just paste it. Now, I'm not going to go back through the trouble of doing my header here. But anyway, let's say, so here's my paper again notice I'm in Pages now. What I'm going to do is, I would of course save this normally as a paper so I could go back and edit it. But one of the neat things, and this will work with anything, emails, and people don't realize this, emails, anything that you can print, okay? If you'll go under Print, and this is true on PCs too, if you go under Print, notice this little box that says PDF. What you can actually do is, and remember, one of the 3 kind of documents we take are PDFs. So if you're working at something else, you can just do Save as PDF, okay? And then it just brings it up like any other document. So I'm going to save this as Narrative Essay Smith. Again, we're saving as a PDF. I'm going to save it on my desktop. And so if you'll look over here on my desktop, you'll notice what I've got here is the PDF and the narrative essay. Now remember, the Microsoft Word narrative essay. Now remember, I can't alter this PDF in Acrobat or whatever once I've done it and saved it this way, unless you really know what you're doing. I'm going to delete this. But the point is, there it is as a PDF, which can be opened. And so that's really kind of handy to do. I'll show you. Let's go back to here we are with the MLA handbook page, whatever. I'm going to go under File, Print, okay, and see that PDF thing is there, and so I can go to Save as a PDF. I'm going to do Desktop, and so what you'll notice is over here should pop up that I'm going to close out of Firefox, close out of Acrobat, even though it'll reopen this in Acrobat, and I'm just going to open that. And what you'll notice is, see how it's saved what it would have printed otherwise as a PDF. So this is you didn't know it could do that. That's a neat trick that a lot of people don't know. If you're a PDF, if you ever need to turn something in as a PDF. Okay, so in the next video, we'll talk about a little more about how to submit these, and then we will go through, more stuff on how to write a narrative essay, because that's what you're working on right now. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and trash these, give me a call. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.
Loibner-Waitkus.